Okay, so here we have the area of ground, and we're going to make ourselves a Hugelkultur, which basically, translated from German, means hill culture. It's growing on a mound. The idea of this is it's one of those niche growing ideas, a bit like raised bed gardens, square foot gardening, etc., where you can grow a lot of vegetables in a small area of ground. In this particular instance, we've got plenty of ground, but just as an example, the Hugel bed, as I would call it for short, also is good if you've very poor soil quality, because what we're going to do here is prepare an area where we can grow good prize vegetables in a pile of logs and sticks covered in soil, as you will see from the next clips. It's very simple to make. And here you see the area I've roughly marked out with some sticks. It's about 12 foot by 6 foot deep, and we're going to dig out this turf here and lay the turf aside. Here I am putting in some back-breaking work, digging out turf area, just placing the turf around about so that it's easier to get to when it comes to the second stage of the operation. You don't have to dig out turf like this, but we're going to use this turf to cover the sticks with, to cover the logs with. So it gives us a good start when it comes to building the actual bed itself. This is just preparing the ground. But if you've got plenty of topsoil, you can just as easily put it straight onto the ground. Again, this is just a quick toughing technique. Doesn't really have to be even as deep as that, but in this instance the deeper the better, because it gives us more soil for the planting. It means I have to transport less soil to the mound itself when it comes to covering the Hugel bed. I'm just putting the turf around about it to the front and to the side. Makes life a bit easier for the second stage. Okay, so here we have the area turfed out. It's nice and clear. As you can see, I've put the piles of turf around about it there, so it's easily accessible. Now you can see, just cover the area with cardboard if you have it. Again, not absolutely necessary, but it's very good for encouraging worms who for some reason love wet cardboard. So putting the cardboard underneath like this gives the little worms and all the other creepy crawlies a good start. We'll put this cardboard down, then give it a good soaking, and that would be the ground prepared perfectly for putting the sticks and logs on top. And that we will see in the second video for the second stage of building a Hugel bed. Okay, this is part 2 of how to build a Hugel bed, and as you can see here, just following on from the last video, I'm laying out the cardboard. Not absolutely necessary, but a good idea, because cardboard encourages worms and all sorts of creepy crawlies into your timber, which all helps with the decomposition. Worms especially, for some reason, are drawn to cardboard, so whether you're doing any kind of raised bed situation even container gardening, it's a good idea to put some cardboard into the bottom just to help with this activity. If they've got any big heavy staples in it, I would advise just to pull them out. Not so much on this hugel bed, but on a raised bed, because it saves you getting them caught in your fingers whilst you're doing the gardening, which is never really a good idea. Right, here we can see the first batch of heavy logs, branches, etc. that's been laid down. A lot of these were cuttings from trees that were bordering the garden area, some old tree trunks that were lying about. You can use any kind of wood in here, whether it be new or old. Half rotten actually is preferable because it will help speed up the process, but avoid timber like oak or cedar wood, for instance, both of which are quite resistant to decomposition and rot. So the whole idea here is for it to rot down and allow the whole decomposition process to create a good growing medium for you. So avoid very resistant trees, very resistant hardwood trees. Here you can see we've added a lot of smaller sticks, twigs, branches. So you put the heavier gear down first, and then you'll pack it in with all the small twigs and branches that are lying around, any small bits of stick, just to help fill in the holes and the cavities, and overall it will give you a good base for adding the turf and the soil, as you will see in the next video, in the next section coming up here. And here we have my sister being pulled in to help me with the infill. As you see, we're just getting a load of topsoil, barrow it in, and then shovel it into and through the sticks, letting it percolate down through all the twig mass there to create a good sound base. This will all help to create the compost, which is ultimately what you're attempting to do here with a hugel bed. You're creating a compost material, and as the wood decomposes, wood becomes porous like a sponge, and it's this sponge effect that holds any water that's added to it over a long period of time, which in turn means that there's very little irrigation or watering needed once the bed is actually established. To be fair, this might take maybe the second year before this process really starts to take place. Idea is that you would start to build this, I would tend to build this in autumn, at least leave it over winter to settle down. Here you see adding the turf that we took away earlier, put it green side down. Your green material is basically your nitrogen, and the nitrogen will help kick off the decomposition process. It will feed the microorganisms and cause the whole thing to rot down, and your turf itself will eventually rot and become fantastic composting material for growing your vegetables. You want a steep enough angle to make operation easy enough, but not too steep that you can't grow anything on it. So you don't want it like a wall. This is me just tamping it down a bit, pressing it down. So we just continue the process, keep topping up the soil. We're lucky in this situation where I have a big heap of topsoil just at the back of the lot, so I'm able just to fill it in. To be fair with you, this is the hard graft part. It's all quite labour intensive until it's set up. Once it's actually set up, like most things, all the work is in the preparation. After this, it's plain sailing, so to speak. Just finishing it off, take out any bits of scrap and old sticks that are sticking out. It doesn't have to be too neat, just getting it ready for planting up here, creating a decent angle, making sure that everything is properly covered. This soil and the whole heap will eventually settle down, so that's why by the time, if you do this in the autumn, by the time the following spring arrives, it will have settled down a bit. And this is just giving it a sprinkling of water. We'll put the sprinkler over to the other side once this side is well soaked, and again this just helps to soak the whole thing, pull the soil down through the twigs and the branches. By springtime this will all be ready to plant up, and we can get planting maybe with courgettes or cabbages or whatever we fancy really, maybe even set up a frame, plant some beans around it, growing beans up. But this will be a growing compost heap now for 10 to 15 years with minimal need for fertilisation once it all starts off. There you have it, the Hugel bed.